Obviously, being locked down has provided an opportunity to share some information and hopefully put together some ideas of what I kind of believe in and use with our guys at Glamorgan, and then also clients in terms of your strength conditioning, your wellness, mobility, and things like that. So the priority of going to focus on today is soft tissue mobility. Hopefully gives you some ideas around how you can look after your body when you're training. Times like this, probably people are doing a lot more outside, so probably more volume of running, less gym work because there's no gyms open, probably more bodyweight stuff at home. So certain areas of the body are going to be doing more volume than they're used to. They're going to start to tighten up a bit more. Muscle lengths shorten, and if we don't maintain that and look after that, probably there's a likelihood that niggles could start to creep in as a result. So big believer in some body maintenance, some regular soft tissue, and some mobility work alongside. So part of this video is to educate around some methods for soft tissue work, some ideas around time and how to put that into your schedule. And then also we'll look at some mobility work as well. So soft tissue primarily, maintenance of muscle tissue length and pliability, not getting too stiff and tight basically. And then for the mobility, we're looking at joint range of movement, and again, not losing joint range of movement through lots of volume of repetitive impact, or if it's running, or even your weight, if you're doing some weight training, high rep weight training at home, and areas will tighten up and shorten up. Some mobility ideas around that to keep everything moving well. So the first one I wanted to start with was would be real simple using one of these. So foam roller, quite common now, cheap to get hold of, Amazon, eBay, online retailers. Get yourself one of these. So in terms of looking at how you can benefit from soft tissue work, obviously we've discussed things like going for a long run, sat down for a long time. Things all causes an effect, so it causes muscle tissue to tighten up a bit. So the first one, probably more focusing on for the runners, is some soft tissue work to sort of keep on top of your injury prevention and keeping things working properly when you're sort of adding up the Ks on the road. So for me, we're going to start with anterior chain, so in front of the body. So we're going to go quads, but then also adductors and ITBs. So in terms of ITB, we're going to start from the knee to the hip, just on the side on the roller. You can start either at the bottom or the top, it doesn't matter. You're just going to work small movements over areas that are quite tender, quite tight. Bit of pressure. If it's uncomfortable, sort of hold in that position. You can try bend and extend your knee, just putting it under a bit more of a stretch under that pressure. Roll up and down. Work your way down to just above the knee. So we're sort of working here. You'll find attachment points tend to be a bit more tender. So work into those. You can always take a bit of pressure off with arms and legs as you're doing this. Cool. For quads, so similar thing from knee up to sort of hip flexor. So high up on the hip. If you're quite tender and sore on the roller, you can use both legs. So you're obviously offloading 50-50, takes pressure off. If you want a bit more pressure, you can just put one on. So I'm just going to go for one here. Again, working up and down. Start at one end, small movements. Again, real sore there. So I'm just going to hold in there, try to bring my heel towards my bum, bit of a stretch on the quad, and relax. Do a couple of those. Get stuck into it again. Small movements. Work my way up. Again, quite tight through there. Bit of stretch and relax. And so on. And then adductor. So we're going to go VMO up to sort of groin. Again, this will, from running, this will likely, because of the quad dominant nature of running, sort of road running and steady state running, can be that things tighten up and these won't function properly, so it's important to get stuck into that and try and almost free it up, so you feel like when you tense, that's as hard as you can get it. Sometimes you'll find if you've done a lot of running and not taken care of yourself, you probably struggle to either lock out and get that muscle fully tensed or full range through there. So just work into that. Again, small movements, just working on that small area, and then you can gradually, over the duration of working into the muscle tissue, work your way up to quite high inside your groin. In terms of timings for this, recommended would be minimum 2 minutes, so 2, 4, 6, swap sides. But you could spend as long as 4 or 5 minutes on each area. You'll find initially when you start out that you'll need longer, so it will take longer to feel like you're making a change. As you get regular soft tissue in your routine, you should actually find that you need to do it, because you're doing it more frequently, it needs a lot less to actually free it up and get in and get your range of movement and free everything up. So recommendation would be, I'll try and hit those areas twice weekly alongside some of the other areas I'm going to show you now. So we're going to go more posterior chain, so behind, so not so much running, probably more sitting down would be this one, so glutes. Again, if we lose range through that area, it can't contribute to the whole biomechanics of movement as well, so then we start to take a hit in other places. So if this isn't helping external rotation and functioning properly, start to drop in a bit, we start to take a bit more of a grunt through the knees, things like that, especially when we talk about running and movement. So important to keep on top of these. Again, ideally twice weekly. You'll find that you probably spend a little bit longer. So glutes wise, probably looking at least 3 minutes up towards sort of 6 or 8 each side. 2 areas you're going to focus on. So one being sort of right at the bottom of your ass cheek, your bump. So again, you won't need a huge amount of pressure. In terms of the ball, you can use a tennis ball, will be easing your way in. And as you get more comfortable on a tennis ball, you can progress to something a bit harder. This one's kind of in the middle, so it's got air in it, it gives a little bit, but still quite firm. If you're really tender and got a pressure point, just try moving knee, adduction, abduction with pressure on through the glute, just to try and free it up, and then you can try and get moving again. Again, work in there sort of 2 or 3 minutes, and then you can move it a little bit higher. So this time it will almost feel like when you get that achy low back sensation from being sat down a lot, sort of in this area. So it's not quite behind, it's starting to move around to the side. So you need to get the ball in underneath here. Bit of pressure again, almost sort of lying on your side now, and work into there. Again, if it's quite tender and sore, you can stay in one spot, bring that knee in towards the other one. So you're just putting it under a stretch with that pressure on top. And back down. Next one, we're going to go for calves. So again, these will stiffen up a lot probably from mileage on the roads. It's quite dynamic work as well, so jumping and sprinting. So if you're doing plyometrics in the gym or sprint sessions, calves need to be stiff to produce force and produce it quickly, but they also need to be pliable, otherwise that stiffness and tension builds up, and that's when something can go ping. So it's important that we keep on top of keeping as supple as possible. So yes, we're training them to be stiff and reactive, but actually they're still supple through range. Again, ways to get into this. So low level soft roller. You can just roll sort of back and forth. You can slightly angle your legs so you can get more on the outside, and then work more on the inside. Yeah, you tend to find you get a band of tightness. So for me, it's probably running more laterally on the outside. So I'm just going to work down there, all the way down to sort of Achilles. Again, if I don't feel that's doing enough, bring back in the ball. You can get that pretty, and again, you can bring your toes up towards your shin and push away. So you're just lengthening and shortening that muscle under a bit of pressure. And what you should try and picture it as is if muscle tissue over time, so it will tighten up, fascia on top stiffens up. Basically with the ball you're creating some pressure to just try and relax these off so they function a bit better again. So again, you can use the ball working down into those tighter areas. Again, 3-5 minutes each side. You can sort of create a bit of your own routine. So personally, quite like to use one day do the foam roller, do 1, 2, 3. The next day use the ball, glutes, calves, and hamstrings. Soft tissue for hamstrings, so you can use a foam roller on the floor. Personally, I don't find that gets into the hamstring enough. So again, back to the ball. What we're going to do, nice hard surface, ideally quite a big surface. So sometimes this stool's probably a little bit too small, but you could use like a tabletop or something. What we're going to do is work down from proximal hamstring all the way to distal, working down the hamstring with the ball. So nice and high up to start. Bit of pressure and just work side to side. And again, if you kind of picture it as everything's tight here, working down your hamstring, you're trying to work over that tissue and let it relax off. Again, pressure over tender points, you can try and extend and relax at the knee, and you'll just feel that nervy type stretch down the back of your leg. So don't push it into discomfort, but push it a little bit and relax. And so on down the hamstring. If you imagine you feel that nervy stretch now, imagine if you were to sprint or to do something quite explosive where hamstring's at risk, and when it's at length. If you've got a shortened muscle that can't be as pliable, the likelihood is it's probably going to be at greater risk in those activities. So kind of get a gauge on, yeah, that's quite tight. All right, I want that to feel better by the time I finish this. So if you, again, start with hamstrings, I could spend personally 5 to 10 minutes on each side. But just try and feel like you've made a difference when you leave this area. So if you start on hamstring on the left hamstring, there's no real time limit, but try and work down the hamstring and walk away feeling like, yeah, it feels like it's a bit easier to put under a stretch. It's not as intense. There's a little bit more range of movement there. And that's kind of your feedback tool for when you're doing these things. So again, as I work further down, I have to shuffle back on the stool, get stuck into that hamstring. So hopefully that's provided some useful ideas around soft tissue for lower body primarily. We looked at quads, adductors, ITB, glutes, hamstrings and calves. So the main areas that you want to sort of try and keep on top of, again, ideally everything twice weekly, but split it up. So you might actually do 4 sessions where you do half as much in each one. So lower body wise, that'll be at soft tissue. Next video, we'll have a look at some mobility ideas for lower body and maximising joint range of movement through hips, ankles and knees.